Hello, you. AmyK here. I had a fascinating conversation with a coaching client last week, and I wanted to share it with you. Now, I am going to preface this. I am not a psychologist. I am not a psychiatrist. I did not even stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. So this is just my 2 cents. We were talking about the fact that she was processing shame. She was experiencing shame about a misstep that she'd made a couple months prior, and she was having a really hard time letting go. And she asked me a very provocative question. She's like, where does shame really come from? And my response was, well, I think the first thing is that when we experience shame, it's because we stepped out of the frequency of love. And so we disconnected from our own heart. And my perspective was, that's not what we're designed to do. Like our higher self, a capital S for the most of us, we see the world through our heart. We lead with love and compassion. And when we step out of that love, whether it's frustration or impatience, or we say or we do something that causes us to feel shame, it's because it's an incongruency in our body. We know that we're not in the frequency of love, but we want to be in love. And I think that's where that ick starts. And then I said, because you're now aware that you weren't seeing it through the eye of your heart, but more than likely the eye of your ego, then you were operating out of fear, which means you were really disconnected from faith in yourself, faith in the cosmos. You were really disconnected from your own heart. And so I then think, and again, my 2 cents, that because we're so conscientious and because we are trying so hard, then our inner critic comes up and says, well, you should feel terrible about this because you know better. And the truth is that sometimes we do know better logically, but we haven't embodied the ability to actually do or say better along the way. And until we reach that level, then technically we don't really know better. Now, because we feel all this shame, so disconnected from our heart and from the frequency of love, that usually helps us course correct. That brings us back to kindness and empathy and patience and forgiveness and the ability to surrender and to have more faith in ourselves going forward. But that's a process. And so we were just having this fantastic dialogue because she was really disconnected from her heart. And then she was so overly critical that she was even further disconnected from giving herself grace for her own humanity. And that's where I think the shame comes into play. Stepping out of love, and then stepping out of love even more to give ourselves grace and compassion to be human, to learn, and to do better going forward. So if you're experiencing shame right now, I hope that this gives you a little bit of perspective that to release it means to return to love. Loving behaviors outward as you contribute and serve, but also loving behaviors toward yourself, because it is both an internal and an external frequency. From my heart to yours, hugs.